everybody, and welcome back. I have a really exciting recipe to show you today. It is super quick, super easy, and it's really healthy. So the ingredients, as far as ingredients go, we've got cinnamon and nutmeg for spices. In terms of actual food ingredients, you have apples and raisins. And then in terms of additional additives, you've got sugar. You can use maple syrup for this recipe if you'd like. I haven't tried it, so I can't say whether that tastes good or bad. But I'm sure with maple syrup being a natural sweetener, you're going to end up with a similar taste, just a little bit healthier alternative, depending, of course, on where you buy your maple syrup. If you've not guessed at this point, the recipe has something to do with apples. It is not applesauce. It is an apple cinnamon topping that we use where we are for yogurt. So we will use it for our yogurt bowls in the mornings. I'm sure you can try it with ice cream. That would probably be good too. I have tried it on its own and it's rather delicious. It's also rather filling. So it's up to you what you use it for, but it's really easy, super quick, and really involves dumping ingredients into a pot and just letting the heat do its work. In terms of ingredients, that's all you're gonna need. In terms of tools and utensils, you'll need a few things. So I have a pot here, as you can see. I've got a 1 cup measurement, I have a teaspoon measurement, I have a tablespoon measurement, I also have an apple corer, because I'm not someone who likes to cut my apples by hand. I just use a corer, and then of course I have my pot that I'm going to put all of my ingredients in. Some of you might be wondering what this little contraption is here beside me. This comes apart, it's in 2 pieces, technically actually 4, because this lid comes apart. So this is your container. As you can see here, this is an apple slicer. It works for other fruits as well. At some point in the future, I'm going to do a review on this little tool because it's fantastic. If you don't have something that is going to automatically slice your apples for you, or your fruits, whatever it might be, then you would need some sort of a knife and obviously your cutting board to chop them up. I use this because it's a lot faster, and you'll see kind of how the process works as I go through. So in terms of your tools and your ingredients, that's all you're gonna need, guys. It's pretty simple. It's not anything super complicated. I'm gonna wash my hands, get my apples ready to go, and get set up. So you can see that I've sliced up all my apples, or rather my machine sliced up all my apples for me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and dump them into this pot here. And once I have my apples in my pot, it's time for everything else. So here's where all your other ingredients come in. First, I usually add sugar. Now, this recipe that I'm following, I'll leave I'll leave it written out in the description down below. But it is for 1 apple, and then it has the measurements for that 1 apple. So I had 8 apples here. So everything that I do, I'm multiplying it by 8. So if I have 8 apples, it would call for 1.5 tablespoons of sugar per apple. So if I do 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, teaspoons of sugar times 8, that gives me 12. Now, like I said, I half the sugar, so we're only looking at 6 teaspoons of sugar. Alrighty, so there's my 6 teaspoons of sugar. Now before you put your teaspoon away, this recipe also calls for cinnamon. Now for this recipe, for 1 apple, it calls for 1/4 teaspoon for each apple. Since I have 8, I'm multiplying 1/4 times 8. That gives me 2 teaspoons, so 2 of these. Now that I've dropped my sugar and my cinnamon in there, it's time for my nutmeg. What this calls for is a pinch of nutmeg. So I would say 2 pinches of nutmeg, which would be about half a teaspoon. So instead of pulling out a brand new one, I'm just going to use what I estimate to be half a teaspoon. If you've got a little bit extra in there, it's more than okay. That's it for your dry ingredients or for your spices. Next, you have your raisins, and this is where your tablespoon comes in. Now, each apple, each recipe, or each single apple is going to call for 1 tablespoon. So again, because I'm doing it by 8 or multiplying it by 8, I would say that's 8 tablespoons. If you've got a little bit extra or a little bit less, that's not a big deal. All right, there you have it. I have all of my raisins, apples, all my ingredients in here. The last thing that I'm gonna do is add water, and this is what you need your 1 cup measurement for. Now I've chosen a 1 cup because of the fact that I actually need 2 cups of water. Each recipe calls for a 1/4 cup. Because I'm multiplying it by 8, that means that I need 2 cups of water total. But if you're making it with just 1 apple, you're going to need a cup measurement so that you can have 2 cups of water. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour that in here and we'll be good to go. Once you have everything all mixed in, it's really just as simple as putting your lid on and just letting it sit on the stove. Now, if you have an electric stove, this is only supposed to take about 15 minutes to 20 minutes to boil everything down, and you're gonna wanna mix it as it goes, and I'll show you what the final result looks like. For us, because we have a wood burning stove, it takes a little bit longer than that. You're looking at about half an hour, 40 minutes. But this is something that I can put in a pot and just let sit on the stove and stir every once in a while, and it's good to go. So I'll show you guys what the final result looks like, as well as it during its stages, and how you can tell when it's done. I'm gonna go ahead and set it on the stove. And that's gonna be that. You're probably gonna wanna leave it alone for about 5 to 10 minutes. For me, that's double, so about 20 minutes before I touch it at all. And here we have it. So I've let this cool down after being on the stove for our stove for about 40 minutes. If you are using an electric stove or a gas stove, which is at usually 375 to 400 just to boil everything down, you're probably going to want to leave it for about 20 minutes to 25 minutes. I tend to leave it for 40 minutes to an hour, just depending on how hot our stove is on the stovetop. But what you'll end up with is a mixture that looks something like this. And what will happen, or what has happened, is that you've essentially boiled everything down, released all of those juices, and the spices have mixed in with it. It makes a really good topping, like I said, for yogurt, which is where it's gonna go right now, or you could use it for ice cream. You can also, like I said, eat it just on its own. In terms of how you know when it's done, that depends on how firm you like your apples when you're talking about this particular mixture. If you want them a little bit firmer, then don't cook it as long. If you would like them to be a little bit more applesauce texture, then you can leave it for a little bit longer. So this is very much a recipe that is super quick, super easy, and one that I really like and that we really enjoy, especially for breakfast in the morning. That's all for today, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you try this, let me know down in the comments what yours is like, and if you like this recipe. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. So for nutmeg, it also calls for 1/4 teaspoon. So, you guessed it, I am using Thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate the, nope, we're gonna cut it there and start that part again. Thanks for listening, guys. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions for me to try other recipes. But if you've got any questions, or let me know how it turns out. Nope, we're not doing that one either. That's it, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know down in the comments if you've got any suggestions for other recipes, and let me know how you made out with this. If you try it on your own, let me know what kind of recipe. No, we're not doing that either. That was close, but no banana.